Okay, so welcome back, everyone, and we're getting into the second half of chapter 2 in the book that I nicknamed Ancient America because the title is extremely long. So they're getting into the different, I guess, traditions or, you know, things that Native Americans did at that time and comparing it to other civilizations. So they're starting talking about scalping. So here we go. The custom of scalping cannot be said with truth to be original with the northern native. It is. It has, however, been so asserted as proof that they are more modern as a people than this theory would establish. But the declaration melts into thin air, from the fact that both, and this is why I like AI because they can say all these weird words. Herodotus and Polybius mention scalping as being practiced among the most ancient nations of the world. The assertion The assertion, therefore, has only brought forward its refutation. Scalping was introduced originally by the ancients for the express purpose of counting and recording the number of foes slain in battle, and especially was their custom practiced by the Scythians. I think that's how you say it, Scythians. This is established upon the authority of the accurate Herodotus. For the same reason is a custom followed by the Aborigines of the North. To number the slain of the enemy, again, Cynthia was the ancient name of the country now known by the modern name of Tartaria. Tartaria. This is important, as will be shown in the next volume in tracing the encampments of the Israelites after their escape from captivity. For the Scythian Tatari, they will be found, and consequently the custom may have been derived from their own remote ancestors who obtained it from the Scythians. The custom with both was, and in the North still is, only for a trophy of the dead, and therefore the scalp is never taken from the living enemy. Polybius, however, was a draconian record that upon the occasion of Gisco, the Carthaginian, being made prisoner together with 700 of his soldiers, they were all scalped alive. Oh, that's gruesome. Well, hold up. Together with 700 of his soldiers, they were all scalped alive by their rebel mercenaries under Spadonius. The ancients also wore the long scalp locks as the flowing hair of their rude helmets and weapons. The natives of the North do the same as records of their personal victories. This subject has been dwelt upon in order to prove its great antiquity. You scalped 700 soldiers alive? You are bad. Okay. We have here we may hear remark that the mutilation of the dead for the purpose of numbering was nearly a general practice among all ancients. The Scythians, it has been shown, took the scalp and the hair lock, but the Assyrian and the Egyptian had another method by the number of ears sent to the king or general. This is glanced at in Ezekiel 25, but when imposition was practiced by the soldiers of the latter nation. Another after a general rapine and massacre. I don't even know what that word is. By sending home the heirs of their female victims in order to increase their increase the reward. Oh, they tried to be slick upon the supposition that they had been taken from men. An original. Okay. By sending home the heirs of their female victims in order to increase their reward upon the supposition that they had been taken from men. An original custom of recording the slain warriors was then introduced to check the imposition for improving the sex of the fallen. The latter proof of victory was a condition from David to Saul for obtaining the daughter of the latter in marriage. And it's in Samuel 25 to 27. The Hebrew therefore followed the custom from the Egyptian, who practiced it previous to David's victory over the Philistines, which was in the year of his marriage, 1063 BC. Oh. It is therefore probable that a knowledge of this Egyptian custom may have been obtained by the Hebrews during their bondage in that country. The Exodus took place in 1491 BC. Hold on. Exodus. Okay, 1491 BC. The remote antiquity of these repulsive customs are therefore firmly established. Scalping is one of them, and ever has been practiced in Northern America. While upon the subject of war and its worst war, rapine, it may be here mentioned again, and to the eternal honor of the Northern Aborigines, and as a stern reproof to the wars of civilization, that they have never been known to violate a female captive among their own race. Okay, so where's my highlighter? Okay, so it may be mentioned here, and adds a stern reproof to the wars of civilization that they have never been known to violate a female captive among their own race. Upon the principle that it placed shame upon the warrior's glory, this noble manhood has also extended the same mercy to the white female prisoner. As to those of their own color, is there not the ancient Hebrew even in this? Okay. So what they're saying is they did not R-word their own female captives, which I think is really important to note, because when you look at history, and what is the first thing they want to yell and scream that they did, so upon the principle that is placed upon the warrior's glory, this noble manhood has also extended the same mercy to the white female prisoner. Basically, this is saying they were not toxic men. They respected themselves, and they respected who they were and who they stood for. So to do an act like that is below them. And they extended this to the white female prisoners. As to those of their own color, is there not the ancient Hebrew even in this, and is not their national? So it's not to say that it's never been David's daughter, Tamar, who was R-worded by her own brother. So that's not to say, but it's shameful. It's such a shame. And then, you know, look what happened to him. Like, so. But this is so yeah, so good. I mean, it had, and this is like where I hate when people say like in the Bible, female weren't, whatever. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, so is there not the ancient Hebrew even in this? And is not there national aberrance? I'm sorry, guys. English is not my favorite word. This is why I use AI. Of interunion with any people, abhorrence. This is national abhorrence of interunion with any people, but their own traceable in this custom. They also, upon the same principle, will not marry or cohabitate with the pale-faced race, or with any not of their own blood. We write of the Aborigines as they were, and of the mass. There may be on the frontiers some solitary exceptions after their acquaintances with the Anglo-Saxon race. Ah, okay. So he's saying just in general, they refuse to cohabitate with the pale-faced race, and or marry or intermarry, right? But they're saying that this doesn't mean like there were exceptions. There were certain exceptions, some solitary exceptions after their acquaintances with the Anglo-Saxon race. So there were some like, all right, well, fine, we'll allow this, whatever. Um, but often among the women than the men. Oh, so it was more the women that would do it than the men. That's interesting. This arises not from less virtue than in the opposite sex, but, and with shame be it written, from the seduction, treachery, and desertation by the European. Hold up, hold up. They just said a mouthful for me. I apologize, guys. This is why I'll go over this a few times and then, um, but yeah, I have to do this. This is the whole purpose of me. This is researching for my books, because I need to understand. Um, I need to understand all this stuff for what I'm writing, and so there's certain things I have to kind of like really kind of focus in on. This arises not from the less virtue. I don't like this color. Going back to traditional colors. There we go. From seduction, treachery, and desertion by the European. Okay, so it was more the females who did it, and this arises not from less virtue than in the opposite sex, but, and with shame be it written, from the seduction, treachery, and desert, whatever that word is. I hate saying words. By the European. Most truly might a chieftain reply to a missionary who endeavored to convert a tribe. Teach us what? My son has been murdered, my daughter ravished by the white man. Learn first yourselves to obey the mandates of humanity, and prove that we do not practice them. Then come among us to preach or teach, and we will receive you with open arms. We shall meet you. We shall. Ugh. When shall we meet again upon this condition on earth, white man? Never. Ooh, that is powerful. Most truly noted. Most truly might a chieftain reply to a missionary who endeavored to convert his tribe. I would like to keep this. That is powerful right there. Teach us what? My son has been murdered, my daughter ravished by the white man. Learn first yourselves to obey the mandates of humanity and prove that we do not practice them. Then come among us to preach or teach, and we will receive you with open arms. When shall we meet again upon this condition? On earth, white man, never. So, in there, what this chieftain just said, you're killing my sons and you're raping my daughters. So who's really doing the killing and the murdering? And you see how they'll try to flip it on us to make it seem like that's who we are. That's what we're about. Wow. I might have to put that quote in my book. That's going to be the thing for me today. And it says, when shall we meet again upon this condition? On earth, white man, on earth, white man, never. So he's saying, like, you're never going to change. And they're saying this way back then, you're never going to change. And then look at today. Wow. The marriage of the Virginian Aboriginal Pocahontas was after her baptism in the Christian faith, and consequently cannot be brought to bear against the preceding remarks. Okay, I think I'm really deeply starting to understand. Something that civilizations would do when they try to take over a group of people is kill off the men and rape the women to put their own kind into there. And then it's kind of like it merges, right? Because now the women are having these kids that are half whatever the intruder is, and half of them, and eventually it's just them. Anyway, the marriage of the Virginian Aboriginal Pocahontas was after her baptism in the Christian faith, and consequently cannot be brought to bear against the preceding remarks. Many other religious customs and ceremonies exist of a minor character, yet strictly in analogy with the race of Abraham. But enough has been brought forward in this volume to propose this, as we believe, unanswerable questions. If they are not of the lost tribes of Israel, who are they? What nation of ancient history can claim and identify those customs and observances as their own, if not Hebrew? So, according to what they're saying in their honest belief, this is just more proof that they are Hebrew Israelites, one of the lost tribes. Then, in regard to the physique of the race, here we go. They possess the essential characteristics of the ancient Hebrew in regard to physiognomy. The broad and elevated forehead. This is important. Hold on. I'm going to put this into my AI image creator and just to show you that I've been doing this, but I'm going to do it again in probably better detail and see what image it creates. So the broad and elevated forehead, the aquiline nose, I don't even know what that means really. I'll have to look that up. The high cheekbone, brilliant red contendants. It's like a copper, like a deep copper. Or, as the Bible says, a burnished copper. And the teeth pure as ivory. So his teeth is pure, and his teeth is white. Black hair. Black hair and heavy eyebrows. The sunken but brilliant eye, like a diamond within a ring and a pearl. And both and both deep set beneath a brow of ebony. Beneath a brow of ebony. So the eyebrows are black. Makes sense. The figures in youth from their mother's care are models of Apollo. And should the statue be lost, and with it all casts and engravings, it could be restored from the living archer. For the attitude out for the attitude of the sun god is daily assumed by them from the impulse of nature, when they wing their arrows at the pythons of the chase. Wow, this is really a compliment on how beautiful they looked, right? How gorgeous they looked. Okay, we're gonna do this. Um, I'm gonna do this and put it in whatever it comes up. I guess I'll do a guy. I'll do men and women, and I'm gonna put it on the cover for this video. And brilliant red contendants. I know exactly. It's just like the copper, like the penny. Um, yeah, I know exactly that color. My daughter actually, my oldest, well, her complexion used to be like that. I don't know what it is now because I don't know. Um, my youngest is light skinned like me, but my oldest, she's like this beautiful. She has this beautiful reddish brown complexion. It's just really pretty. And her ancestry, she has me, which is a whole lot of stuff, and then on her father's side, his grandmother was, I think it's Taino. I'm not sure what the name of the tribe is in Haiti, but she was full blooded, and I was lucky enough to get to meet her. She was such a sweet woman. Um, but I forgot the name of the tribe in Haiti. But she talks about how she lived up in the mountains in Haiti, and she kept coming down. They'd come down like once a month to get groceries and stuff like that, or to, trade and stuff like that. And that's how she met and fell in love with, my daughter's great grandfather, or grandfather, not great grandfather, but grandfather. And the rest is history. She said she regretted it. Anyway, okay. The reader must not imagine that our enthusiasm upon the subject has betrayed us into the language of poetic rhapsody, for we have the authority, apart from our own experience, of Benjamin West, who when he arrived at Rome to commence his studies, was regarded as a savage from the New World. Hold up. Who's this Benjamin West? We gotta look this guy up. What the hell happened to my highlighter? We gotta look this guy up. Benjamin West. Let me see. I'm at 24 minutes right now. I really want to look up this guy, Benjamin West. Alright, they're just gonna have to cut this chapter up into a couple minutes. But let's just finish this. Who, when he first arrived at Rome to commence his studies, was regarded as a savage from the New World. In order to surprise him, the statue of Apollo was strewn to him with great ceremony by the savants, who expected that he would be overwhelmed with wonder. His simple remark was, why it is a model from a young North American Indian. It was the highest compliment that could have been given to the grace and dignity of the statue. So, okay, the reader must imagine that our enthusiasm upon the subject has portrayed, okay, but from our own, oh, we have the authority of Benjamin West, who, when we first arrived at Rome to commence his studies, was regarded as a savage from the New World. In order to surprise him, okay, I have to look into that. The color of the ancient Israelites must not be judged by that of the modern Jew. For various climates, local circumstances, and confined habitations have given the latter a darker, heavy, swarthy countenance. Let's highlight that. Having given a darker, heavy, swarthy countenance, and even in middle age, they are bent in figure, but the ancient light red tint may be oh but the ancient light red tint may be but the original of the sunburnt features of the Aborigines, and they from their forest life reach at least 60 years before old age compels them to see their shadows as they walk. So 60. Okay, so basically as they got older, they kind of like hunched over, they bent over to where they're looking down. Okay, okay. Okay, and that's just the spine curvature. But the ancients' light red tint can, so they got a little bit lighter as they got older, and it's probably because they're not out in the sun as much. I don't know. The words of the good old friend William Penn may be given as a peculiar and powerful authority. After his first and celebrated interview with the northern natives, he wrote to England the following sentences in reference to them. I found them like the continences to the Hebrew race, and their children of so lively a resemblance of them. At this and no other time did the thought of their being of the lost tribe of Israel enter his imagination. The sentences, therefore, are of great importance from the fact that they were not originally written by him to support any theory in reference to the Aborigines, but merely asserted in his letter from a strong impression of apparent truth, and which fact to the founder of Pennsylvania was a great subject of astonishment. And there it rested, for to him, were they Hebrew or Gentile, his kind and philanthropic heart taught him to view them as a branch of the human family, and that to him was sufficient for forming a bond of amenity. His memory is cherished by the Aborigines to this day as the good friend. The reader may remember the historical painting of by West of this celebrated interview. It is worthy of the subject represented. The bold style and metaphorical character of their oratory is essentially Hebrew. An attempt to illustrate their eloquence will be found in the historical tragedy of Tecumseh. Their undaunted and chivalric personal courage is their very counterpart that evinced upon the plains of Jericho, or in after times before the walls of Jerusalem. Their godlike love of perfect freedom, the spirit of Jeroboam, did not die in the first rebellion and victory against tyranny. It lives in their nation's descendants in the north. At invasions or encroachment, they rise as one as one man to crush their oppressor, and which fact every record from the pilgrim fathers to the present day will testify in all their battles, and their name is Legion. They have disputed the ground inch by inch, and even their women have fought and fallen in their ranks. Every chief has a Judas Maccabeus, or an Eliezer Savarian. I don't know what that is. I'm assuming it's the same thing. Whatever. Now, in every physical characteristic of the Northern did the Mexican differ. They bore no analogy of being of the same race either, in feature, courage, endurance, or general religion. In Mexican American, Cortez, with only 500 Spanish soldiers, and those worn and dispirited, drove 50,000 Mexicans from the fields of Otumba. They fled like snowflakes before the wind when their standard was seized by a Spaniard. But in the north they fought as the fight was man to man, and no retreat, death or victory, Jerusalem or the grave. Every chieftain of the north, even upon the supposition of flight from a superior foe, either in number or proudness, may be imagined to have uttered the last words of Judas Maccabeus, when in his final battle he would oppose by 20 times his own force. God forbid that I should do this thing and flee from them. If our tribe be come, let us die manfully for our brethren, and not strain our honor. Wow. 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 That's something to just kind of take in. Take it in for a second. They were not going to run. And they're saying this was a very Hebrew trait. They were going to fight. The warriors were no joke. Hebrew Israelites were no joke. They held their ground. For the most part. I think there are some stories certain people running and stuff like that, but for the most part, the attitude is, the general census is to stand your ground and you fight. It's fight or die. You know, like, wow. Okay. Some of the Mexican nations worship idols and knew not God, for they sacrifice human beings to appropriate their savage deities, not to propite. I could have said that. I'm pretty sure I said that word wrong. Not so the noble Northerns. They worship the one God who declared to the first lawgiver, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me," and their only human sacrifice is the invader of their lands and birthright. Wow. And so this is what they're saying is a clear distinction between the southern and south and central indigenous people and the north indigenous people. They only believed in one God. And this is also what this goes back to Jerusalem and Hebrew Israelites. That's where they got their strength from. That's why they had that determination that, we're going to fight to the death, because their belief in one God and God being behind them is what gave them the strength to do that. It gave them the strength and the courage to do that. So that is just more confirmation. To me, I don't know, you may see it differently, but to me that's just more confirmation. Okay, the only two analogies that exist between North and Mexican American, and which might apparently destroy or prevent the proof of this theory, are first, circumcision, and the second, the similitude of language. In the North, circumcision was, as we have shown, is a religious custom only. In the Mexican territories, it was both optional and religious. This is strange and apparently stumble block in a ways of proving that they are of a different race. Will be removed as we proceed. For so far from injuring the proofs of the theory, it absolutely supports them, as does also the analogy of in language. These important points, circumcision and language, will be met in their respective places and in an original manner of application, for they form two of the most substantial evidences and were in the primitive causes for our belief in the subject contemplating by this work, and especially in reference to the portion having Christianity for its basis. Okay, so I just need to see if I understand. So in the North, circumcision was for religious reasons, and in Mexican America, it was both religious and optional. And see, this is why I keep saying, like, I think that they could also be there. How should I put it? Because you remember, Jeroboam what is the sin Jeroboam kept doing? Worshipping idols. They just couldn't stop doing it. I don't know. Worshipping and sacrificing to idols. And this is why God eventually just kind of, I guess, cut him off. But he got tired of it. He's like, I'm done. And he shifted his focus on the others, And so that's just the house of Jeroboam. That's not a tribe. So he didn't cut off a tribe. He cut off a house. And I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of have this wrong, that the house of Jeroboam was probably the South and Central indigenous. I don't know because why if the house of Jeroboam's habit was to worship idols, and they kept doing it, like they couldn't stop. Who's to say they're here in America, in North America, and so there's they don't even play with that. You see how fierce they are. You see how they're one God and that's it. They weren't playing around. There was no faltering in that. So why would they? It doesn't make sense. It more makes sense for South and Central to fall into that, because for whatever reason they kept falling back into that same sin. So this is where I disagree with the book. And to me, it makes more sense that the house of Jeroboam that was cut off may have been South and Central indigenous. And then it makes sense where some would be doing circumcision, or circumcision was optional or religious. That is starting to make more sense, because you're still having some of the Hebrew traits, right? And then they're saying the language, and so that makes more sense to me, but whatever. As an essential contrast between the Aborigines is the fact that in the North they have already stated no tradition of the crucifixion. Okay, so as an essential contrast between the Aborigines in the fact that in the North they have no tradition of the crucifixion, which, while in the other portion of the continent, for centuries before the rediscovery of Columbus, they had a perfect knowledge of every particular of the life and death of Christ. Again, in this part of the continent, there are stone architectural ruins in the north. There are none that possess. There are none. They possess there but embankments, marathonians, mounds, or tumuli. These undeniable and characteristic opposites of the Northern and Mexican American increased by the late discovery of the ruined cities of Guatemala and the adjacent provinces together with 15 years of personal observation in America, to which may be added a particular knowledge of the fine arts, enthusiasm in research, and mature reflection upon the entire subject have authorized the formation of, as he believed, an original theory concerning the histories of the Aborigines of the two great divisions of the Western Hemisphere, and for the unfolding of the present volume, we state. So, 1. That they consist of two distinct races or people. This will be without doubt admitted from the facts in the previous page. 2. The South America, nationally speaking, including what is all present called Central America, and as a consequence, the ancient cities now in ruins belong to the same general empire. That South, or as we have termed it in the preceding pages, Mexican American, has inhabited interior to that of the North. For the Aborigines of Mexican American and the West India Islands were the ancient Tyrians of Phoenicia, and that they landed on the west continent from their native country more than 2,000 years ago. This is confirmed by tradition, analogies, history, and prophecy. Oh, I gotta look this up. That's interesting to me personally because my family's on my mother's side is from Trinidad. Reasoning upon the causes that have led to the new historical theory and the conclusions arising therein, a new chronological or epochian table as a necessity is required for the history of the Western Hemisphere and its inhabitants, at least to the time of Columbus, not desiring, however, to anticipate any interest derivable from the investigation of this work. The progressive epochs will be given in the volumes devoted to the illustration. The present volume contemplates the first epoch only, and is announced in the following page, and the reader will do himself but justice, apart from the author, by not rejecting the startling theory until at least the proof and arguments have been received and analyzed, upon which investigation the writer will submit with all humility to the decision of the public and of their all-powerful champion, the press. Okay, so that is the completion of chapter 2. There's a lot to kind of like think about and I don't know, go over. There's a lot of things that I'd like to look up. I'm gonna see if I can find any good, interesting pictures or something. I'll flash it in the video. And I will. If you need any sites, if you want the link direct link to this to download it and read it yourself, I will put it in the description. And I don't know. Tell me, what do you think? This is fascinating. This is very fascinating. So we got a long way to go. So we're gonna work on chapter 3 next. It's just actually pretty short. I could probably do that's short. Chapter 4. Okay, so yeah, but I'm gonna stop here for now. So you guys have a wonderful day and talk to you next time.